This video is about climate change, but I promise it's not sad, okay? You can't click away, you're clicking away! So recently, I went to Iceland with my friend Ra. We had a great time. I saw incredible rock formations, huge waterfalls. I swam in a geothermic boiling lagoon. I attended Reykjavik Listerary Festival, and I even rode an Icelandic horse. But after I got home, and anyone ever asked me how my trip was, I opened my mouth to tell them about all those things. And instead, all I ever managed to think about was this one moment when I was stood in front of what was a valley filled with glacier ice, and was now this. This is the part where we talk about the facts. This is also the part where personally I would click away. It is important to either not freak out or acknowledge that you're freaking out and continue anyway. Okay? Okay.
Bruh, where's the glacier gone? Where's the glacier? Oh, fucking hell.
So Heimajökull, am I saying that right? Is on the south side of the country. It's one of the best known examples of how rapidly our actions are eroding the natural order of things. Glacial ice covers 11% of Iceland's surface. So they're kind of going to notice when it's gone. So Heimajökull retreated by 973 metres just in the years 2000 to 2015. It's predicted that every glacier on the planet will disappear within the next 200 to 300 years. I am about 1.5 metres tall. If we let the glaciers melt, it's said that the sea levels will rise by almost 70 metres, or 46.6 of me. I believed climate change was real before I went to Iceland. So many of us growing up got taught to recycle Coke cans, turn the tap off when you brush your teeth, public transport is good, turn the lights off when you're not using them. All of these things are very, very nice. And I liked them. I shouldn't have needed a huge visual aid to let the realities of what I'd been told sink in. But it turns out I did. Now, here's the thing. I work in books. That is my job. I'm a sworn member of the Narratives Change Lives Club. I think it works. I think it's important and incredible. I spend my days defending stories. But I'm going to call myself out here and say that sometimes you can use stories to distract and distance yourself from the narrative turn your life is actually taking. And I think I've been telling myself some porkies for a while. Here are 4 stories I was telling myself. Stories about climate change that I told myself before I went to Iceland that helped me, but in the long run aren't true and may kill us all. The small things will make a difference. This isn't false. For the longest time, I was hacking and tweaking my life, spending hours accumulating, carefully acquiring eco tools to help my carbon footprint be decreased. While that is something I will continue to cover and look at, I've realised that just doing that to stave off the panic that I find in me has been detrimental to me actually making a difference and saving the humans. I think the seductive quality of this push for individual change is because of our addiction to the idea of me, individualism, the power of one person, and also this heightened sense, perhaps as a hangover from our collective consciousness connection with religion, that if the world is broken, it must be me. To change the world, I must start with myself, which is really good when you're talking about nebulous concepts like kindness and forgiveness, but it simply isn't the case when it comes to the practical logistics of climate change. Just 100 companies are responsible for 71%. I had to check that number on my screen because I couldn't. 71% of global emissions. 100. Like, I'm laughing because, you know, like when like that's the response when you find out somebody dies and you just laugh because it's like a visceral. 100 companies are responsible for 71% of global emissions. 71%. 70. So, while past me was very proud of her plastic-free deodorant, I don't think palatable keep cup culture is going to save us. I do believe an individual can change the world. If that individual isn't just working on themselves, they're looking at systemic change and pushing for a wider shift in the currents. Global warming is my thing. I think often when it comes to social action, we're encouraged to think of it a little bit like a hobby, because often it has to be, but because often it's not subsidised, so it's something you do in your spare time. We're encouraged to pick something that interests us, that suits us, that concerns us. For example, if your childhood was affected by outreach groups for the arts, you might volunteer with an arts group. If you work in the field of engineering, you might volunteer for an engineering charity. If your life has been made better by computers, you might volunteer teaching people code. If your life or the lives of people around you have been affected by a particular type of cancer, you're very likely to run a marathon for that cancer. All of that is understandable human nature and something I do myself. And to me, climate change was something that never really interested me. I understand that it was important, but I preferred working on other things. But I think on this trip, it clicked into place for me that this wasn't just another cause to pick from. It was the one cause that would halt us from trying to solve all of the other ones. It's almost like an overarching cell or a tent over the rest of them. We're building these ones, we're going closer and closer to something good with every single cause that we help. But if we don't go and solve climate change, they're all capped, we never get a chance to fix them all. Poverty is never eradicated, the cure for cancer is never found, girls never learn to code. These are all important causes. I'm not saying don't spend time on them, but we can't see climate change as just one of the pennies to put a jar in, one of the sheets to sign up to be a do-gooder on. It is the sheet. It's the sheet. It's the sheet. It's the only sheet. Don't freak. Stop panicking. Climate change activism is there to save nature. From the research I've been doing so far, the experts I've been listening to, it kind of seems like nature will be okay. It will not be how it was, but nature has been constantly adapting. It's been a lot hotter and a lot colder on this earth, and nature has always adapted, rejuvenated, created different species, different microbiotic landscape. Nature adjusts to survive. That's just what it does. It's not nature that's a snowflake, it's us. We are a very, very delicate species, us humans. We need it at the right temperature. We want to breathe in the right things. We can't breathe in these things. We can't be exposed to this. We really like eating these kind of crops, so we're going to need very specific precipitation levels. The likelihood of humans ever having evolved anyway is pretty slim. Potentially because this is a breakable piece of meat rolling around a very dangerous world, somehow surviving. I think potentially 40 or 50 years ago, when people were talking about climate change, it became a thing for nature lovers, people who loved nature, who wanted to save the planet. But in fact, I think the necessity now is to flip that on that head and say, hey, actually, I don't really fucking care if you like trees or not. Individual animals die, yes, individual trees are cut down, but on a grand scale, the earth isn't going to suddenly disappear if we keep using single-use plastic. No, the earth isn't going to explode. Just us will be gone. Stay. Everything else continues. Earth isn't just gonna disappear in space. I think we need to rephrase that from save the planet to save the humans, save yourself. You don't have to be a left-wing hippie to care about this. You actually need to be quite self-preserving. I feel in myself this almost self-sabotage to ignore the facts. I think this is like a human race-wide complex, this almost a confidence issue where we don't think we're capable of solving it, we don't think we're worth saving, and at the same time, in this kind of like insecure narcissistic level, we think we're invincible. Oh my god, I think my radical act for today as a woman is shooting from below. Expect no more radical feminist acts from me until at least tomorrow. The adults have it in hand. They don't have it in hand. The assumption that we have it in hand, that things are getting better, it's just not true. Political leaders are making statements all the time to this effect. And I don't mean to alarm you, but it's not true, it's a lie. According to the UN Environment Programme, CO2 emissions rose in 2017 for the first time in 4 years. Do you trust me? Stick with me here. All this talk of saving the trees in my childhood, and between 2017 and 2018, Amazon deforestation hit its highest in a decade. And potentially the scariest fact in my mind, you know that documentary that was going around like 10 years ago? An Inconvenient Truth, the one that everybody watched and talked to each other about and was like, oh my god, Al Gore, we should listen to him. We have done more damage to the planet since that documentary came out than cumulatively was in that documentary. So safe to say, I think you will have an uphill battle winning the argument the adults are sorting it. The adults aren't sorting it, and also, I think we might be the adults now. Good. I want to go more into this in future videos, but even the promises that prime ministers and governments are making now, they're not legally binding. They don't have to do them. And evidence shows that they weren't good promises in the first place, and they're definitely not even working towards those. So that is the fourth lie I'm going to stop telling myself. But I promised you something positive. Iceland is a place where you just so acutely feel that the world is worth saving. And I believe that we are living in the best time to save it. Hear me out. Hear me out. As people, this is the most educated we have ever been. Me as a woman, this is the most education I would ever have been given in history to date. If you're here and you're watching me, it's likely that you have access to one of these. It is the most democratic way of communicating. Sure, it has algorithms, it has flaws, but if you use it right, you can reach more people outside of your immediate village than your great-great-grandparents could have ever dreamed of. We are being told all of this while there is still time. 11 years. If I exclusively spent my whole life on this for the next 11 years, I would be 40. Don't get me wrong, I would love to not be 40 when I return to my own pursuits, my own personal passions. But 40 isn't old. It's not the end of my life. Jacqueline Wilson only started writing books at 40, or have you know. We as a species have time, but we also have our own personal time in our own personal lives. We have scientists. For now. We actually do have solutions, which I want to get into in other videos. There are solutions. People have already worked a lot of them out. There's just no funding, no spotlight, no attention span for it yet. Scientists and solutions, we need to believe them, we need to support them, we need to invest in them. And on a soppy level, I feel like we're all really fucking lucky. Because what makes me resist this topic, what made you perhaps be very scared to click on this video, is the fact that we have so much to lose. We're also scared, perhaps me, scared to make this video, you scared to click on it, because among the irony and the memes and the eye rolls, we know exactly how much we have to lose. And it's everything. If news about climate change scares you, good! Excellent news! You like being alive. You have the access to the information you need, and you have time to save everything. All it kind of means is getting a jog on. Thank you so much for watching this video. I want to make a Guide to Positive Panic a series. If you would like to help support me make that, fund the time, help me get expertise in, help me get to the right people, please consider joining the Gumption Club. It is a Patreon only group. You can join for as little as $1. You get a free poetry collection, 200 unlisted videos on this channel, and access to a lovely secret Facebook group where we chat every day about changes we can make in the world, supporting each other and keeping being shrewd and spirited, otherwise known as Gumption, alive. As you might see, thousands of people watch my channel, but it's really about 400 incredible art angels that keep it alive and make it free for everyone else. So if you want to be one of those people, the link is in the description. Thank you so much for watching. Tell me your thoughts on climate change below. Tell me the resources I should be reading, watching, looking at for this series. Tell me what you're worried about. Tell me why you think you struggle to listen to messages about climate change. We can do this. It's gonna. Thank you so much for watching and not clicking out of this video in a panic. And I will see you in my next one. Frogsnog out. She had some 50-cent lip gloss on her snaggle tooth. And that's when I realised making fun of Caroline Kraft will not stop her from beating me.